some of the cards that they came up with back in the 1990s. Here's the Twin Towers, and it says terrorist nuke. And then here's the tidal wave, it almost looks like Fukushima there. And then it says nuclear accident. Media connections, military-industrial complex, the corporate master, energy crisis, bigger business, multi-oil. These are our cards you can play in the game. Hollywood, what I call Hollywood, Vatican City, censorship, whispering campaign, upheaval, gun control, Federal Reserve, energy powers, law and order, the guy with his Billy Club, charismatic leaders, Pentagon. So you see in this game a lot of cards that would have. You can come up and look at it after we finish. Interestingly, huh? But who would have thought the Twin Towers nuked, huh? And that's one of the cards in this Illuminati game that came out in the 90s. Pretty fascinating. Inside you'll find some paperwork. Okay, so the bottom line of what we're looking at is this attack was meant to be iconic. It was something to support myths and agendas. Our country lives off of myths. What is a myth? And I was going to write this up, but I'm going to run out of time if I do. So just listen carefully. A myth is an organization of symbolic images and narratives. Okay? That's what our country's working off of. Okay? America uses symbols and icons and myths to describe itself. We're under social control that uses self-delusion. They give the public what the public wants to believe. And they coach us in this. So 9/11 was part of a delusion, part of a myth. And one of the myths, and granted there's a kernel of truth to this. You know, like in World War I, the Germans had defeated the Russians. They had moved their vast army from the Eastern Front to the Western Front, and they were going to finish off the rest of the Allies. And America came in right at the last moment and saved the Allies. World War II, again, we have a similar appearing situation. America comes into the war. We turn the tide in the Pacific. We help turn the tide in the African front, helping the British, and our Lend-Lease helps the Russians turn the tide on the Eastern front. So again, we have this image of America coming to the rescue. Okay, but we're still operating under this delusion right now that we're on this providential mission to save the world from itself. Okay, that's one of the myths that America operates on. And our news media promotes that. How often in the last month have I heard, just randomly in some, like in a restaurant or store or something, Americans complaining about how much we help the world? Our news media doesn't tell us that when there's a disaster someplace, a country like Germany or Japan or some of these other countries that are poorer than us actually give more money than we do. But our newspapers don't report it. They make it sound like we're the only ones that help anyone. We aren't. But this is part of the delusion, is that we're on this messianic, and part that works with this is because we are so strong. If we're so strong, then we must be good, you know. And so we've got these dreams of righteousness. And this all ties into the myths of the Twin Towers and the icons and the symbology involved in all of this. One of the goals of military propaganda, and it's stated in their books, is when you're going to do propaganda, you want to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Well, those were all thrown into the 9/11 thing. It was following military procedure. You also, as you're doing something like this, do what's called pacing. That means you throw a lot at the person. And you also throw in distraction, which is used to overload the brain. And then you prime. Prime means you place thoughts into people's heads. And while I was watching, within a few seconds of this whole thing going down, it blew me away. All of the announcers, because I switched to the 3 different news medias, they were all saying the same. They were all saying, we don't have any idea who did this, but it looks like the work of Osama bin Laden. They're priming it. There's 1,000 different candidates or organizations that it could have been, but they all 3 were priming that suggestion. It looks like the work of Osama bin Laden. You know, and oh man, I was sick to my stomach. Because I know that this is propaganda following the ABCs of how to do it, and people are going to fall for it. They're going to fall for all the symbology and everything. And it was what the public wanted to believe, you know. We're the righteous people being persecuted by these terrorists, and now we've got to go on a crusade. But as I've already talked about the media, in my opinion, I think most of you would probably agree with me, is intellectually and morally useless. In fact, it gets worse than that. Like I say, we're talking about accomplices to a crime. So they take 9/11, they're using these symbols, they're wanting it to be iconic, they're wanting to hit your subconscious, they're wanting it to hit your conscious, and it's a show. And that's, I think, one of the most important messages to take out of this whole thing about realizing that we've been fed a bunch of lies about 9/11, is to realize it was a staged production. Very well staged to evoke certain things in your mind to follow an agenda based on myths. And they use these images to create an effect. It was a magical illusion. It was a fluid sleight of hand, really. See, when you do the magic trick, what appears to be done, that's what's revealed. And then there's the concealed back view, what's actually done. That's the concealed part. Or what some people call disinformation design, or what, when I was a kid, used to be called simply deception. There's a lot of connections between the Twin Towers and 11, and I want to get to that. I'm going to run out of time here on so much. 11 occurs in so many different ways in this, and since I'm running out of time, I'm going to explain that 11 and 11 is a trigger, and I'm quoting from an occult book. It says 1111 is a trigger to activate light workers into their higher purpose. Remember, I was telling you that some of the icons and some of the events around 9/11 were used for the mind control, and this book just actually comes out and says it. Plus, the occult significance of 1111 is that it's a door. Okay, and I'm quoting right from somebody else writing this, and they're talking about on 11/11, you know, walking through this door on 11/11. This is what this is all about: healing, to take a fragmented soul and make it one again. This day will be the activation point, the day of great universal strength that can enable you to make these grand realizations of the grand reality. Remember, grand is a Masonic term. To feed these that you call light workers into a higher place. So 1111 is an icon, a symbol, a magical numerology to represent a door into a new world. Okay? And that's what we had here. It was an encoded trigger. It means the time of completion is near. And a pathway. a bridge doorway, a watershed event, and that's indeed what it had. 9/11 has a lot of significance too, because on 9/11/1972, that's when you had these Muslim terrorists that killed the 11 Israeli Olympic athletes in Munich. Maybe some of you remember watching that. Fast forward to 9/11/1990, and we have President George Bush telling Congress, out of these troubled times, we can see our fifth objective, a new world order coming into view. This is not about one small country, referring to the United States. It's a big idea, a new world order, where nations join in common cause to reach the common aspirations of mankind. And 11 years later, then, to the day, we have 9/11. Why are we seeing these kind of things? There's so much numerology involved in this, and I'm running out of time, obviously.
Also,
so getting to the bottom line of all the numerology, one of the things that I found out about the Illuminati, and this is not where I'm at because I'm not into the Kabbalah or numerology and all the rest of it, but they are. There'll be a family born, there'll be maybe several sons. Because of the astrological symbols, the numerology around one and blah, 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 one will have a certain pathway chosen for him and another will not. Days are chosen because of numerology. Events that they do, things that they do are chosen for magical reasons. It's not an accident. There were 13 colonies that became the United States. 13 was chosen. They could have rearranged it in several ways. Bermuda wanted to join the United States during the American Revolution. They were told no. You know, we had to have 13 of them. 14 doesn't work. Look at the Confederate flag. How many stars are there on the Confederate flag? 13. They needed 13. There's a reason behind all of this. This numerology is very important. So you'll see all kinds of numerology, occult numerology, significance, and why this date was chosen, and the events and all the things around it. Now, some of these, the ways numbers work, it's almost like, the only way I can kind of explain it is quantum physics. When you study quantum physics, you start seeing that two particles can be connected. And it's like there's an interconnectedness between so much in life. There's so many people that were the bad guys in 9/11 whose names, when you put them into numerology, turned out to be 11. You know, I mean, you have all these patterns. Okay, so there are a lot of numerological patterns, and as to why that occurs, what all is involved in it, I mean, it's really beyond any one person manipulating it to happen. It's 911, of course, has its symbology. That's a call for help. 119 is the area code for Iraq and Iran. The Twin Towers looks like 11. The local station there that was radio station, which was radio station 11, used the towers as its 11 in their logo. You had Flight 11, 11 crew members, on and on. You have all of these numbers showing up, and some of this was probably controlled as part of the magic involved in it all happening. Some of it just maybe because of sort of like in a mysterious quantum physics type thing of life that you see patterns. In fact, one of the things that I wanted to do, and I was going to show you from the scriptures, that if God was giving us a message, this follows prophetic patterns that way too. We see when we go to Ezekiel 28, and in Ezekiel 28 it lays out, this prophetic pattern of judgment and how the people are acting. And over here on verse 16,